Hey guys, Brox here doing a Gray Zone Warfare update. As they have announced, point 4 Spearhead is on its way, and they have officially admitted defeat. So if you guys didn't catch it in the thumbnail, I'm going to bring it back up on screen so you guys can take a look. If you notice anything, it would be the yellow bordered section that says that Gray Zone Warfare is now a PvE first open world tactical shooter. Now, you might find that kind of interesting because Gray Zone Warfare, up to this point, has been referred to as a PvPvE extraction open world tactical shooter. And if you go and look at their Steam page that they updated, they have also changed their Steam page to state that they are a PvE first open world tactical shooter. Now, this may come to a surprise for many of you who have followed Gray Zone Warfare for, let's say, the last two major updates, where if you even go back in YouTube and type in Winds of War, you're going to see a lot of very interesting thumbnails where they're all titled The Focus on PvP. That Gray Zone Warfare was getting back to being a PvP focused game, a actual extraction shooter. Well, that didn't go so well because in the last year and a half, they haven't peaked over 3,000 concurrent players, and they are still rated as the worst extraction shooter by rating on Steam by far. The only two that are lower than it, which I don't count because they have their own launchers, is Tarkov, obviously, which has was review bombed, so it's sitting at like a 40%, but again, it's a fraction of the actual player base that plays on the actual launcher. And then Delta Force, what that doesn't really count either because Delta Force is more than just an extraction shooter game. So its reviews and ratings are a little biased, a little off in comparison. But in the list you see here, this, if you look at how I've structured it, is all extraction shooters that are games with over 1,000 reviews. And then I removed a bunch of nonsense that was filling in for the differentials here to make this as tight as a comparison to what Gray Zone Warfare actually is. You will see they are still the worst rated extraction shooter on Steam. This is of no surprise. They have no clear direction for this game, as they are once again going from point 3 Winds of War to point 4 Spearhead, changing the entire direction of the game. They went from being PvP focused, but that didn't work because no one came back, no one cared about it, no streamers cared about it, and they got no free marketing from Winds of War. It was a disaster. They didn't listen to the community that told them that the red circle PvP, basically giving everybody wall hacks on the entire map, was a terrible idea. People still to this day tell them it's a terrible idea, and it wasn't addressed in the point 4 update. They also were told straight up that the LZs just needed to be removed from the map in place of the COP system, but they didn't listen to that. So the COP system was completely and utterly undermined by the LZ system. I've done a video about this. If you go back to my last Gray Zone Warfare video, I talk about this, that the COP is completely pointless when you can literally land at an LZ less than 20 meters away from the COP and just take it back and forth without restrictions. Now, no changes were made in this front. The LZ still exists in this upcoming PvE first open world change that they're doing now. The COP system is still exactly the same. But now the question is, well, why are we going PvE first? Like, what has changed from point 3 to point 4, where we had a massive PvP focus, to now being a massive PvE first focus? Well, I think it's very simple. This is when live service games realize that they are dying and they have to make a offline PvE focused change. So an example, probably the most recent and well-known example, is a game like Wayfinder. Wayfinder came out, it was supposed to be an MMORPG light live service game. It failed miserably, and then they took it back and they made it a offline kind of PvE focused Monster Hunter kind of grind game that you could play through. That's probably the most relevant recent example. Another recent example that has done this, that most people are probably not going to know did this, is a game called Towerborn, that was pushed by Xbox and Xbox Game Pass. And they recently, just like 2 days ago, released their PvE offline only version of their live service game because the live service game failed. So what you are seeing here is Grayzone is having to take the realistic realization that their game is dead on arrival, that this game has been dead on arrival, and they are now pivoting to making a PvE first open world tactical shooter. Eventually, what is likely going to happen is they are going to rush this out. They're probably going to drop the PvP. They're going to drop the live service so they don't have to keep guaranteeing updates. And then they're going to ship this as a 1.0 offline game in the likes and comparisons to something like Stalker, because they are literally using the same backbone as Stalker, which is some book, I think it's called Atomic Picnic or something like that, as the same premise for their whole plot and story and lore, which is that there's some supernatural thing that is affecting the island, and you guys are there to actually investigate it. But up until this point, we have had zero lore to guide us to that direction. Ground Zero is still an irrelevant giant piece of the map, and there is no actual event thing happening there. And from my understanding, that was supposed to be addressed in this 0.4 update, and Ground Zero was supposed to turn into something, and the lore was supposed to get enhanced, but they have said that that is not exactly what is going to happen in 0.4. And instead, we are just getting little journals and little notepads of like tidbits of information scattered throughout the world, which is like the bare minimum you could do for lore. So don't expect this PvE first open world tactical shooter to blow your socks off. Now, the other part of this that makes it kind of hilarious to me is, as if you have followed my channel at all for Grayzone Warfare, I have made ample videos talking about how bad the AI in Grayzone Warfare is. It's terrible. It is below par. It is less than great. And they are making even more changes to it in 0.4 that do look positive. I do like the fact that when you shoot the AI, supposedly in 0.4, they will actually now react to taking a bullet hit to their body. And I find it hilarious, if anybody knows kind of my history with the Madfinger Games team, that they are making some of these changes because they consider my content about Grayzone Warfare to not be relevant to the game, and yet these changes always seem to happen to be in effect to some of my videos about how dog shit their game is. So if you even go back to my last AI is awful video for Grayzone Warfare, I literally spend most of it talking about how shooting AI in certain body parts has no reaction at all. You will not find another Grayzone Warfare video or creator talking about this because they are all paid shills and no one actually criticizes this game who still plays it. So it's fascinating that these changes get made from someone who they deem content is not relevant to the actual game, but it keeps happening that way. It is hilarious to me that they keep fixing things that I personally complain about. And let's go even further down that rabbit hole just a little bit. If you have followed any of my Grayzone Warfare content ever, you will know that I have always said the same thing since day one, since the original beta, since it was originally released. I said this game is going to fail as an extraction shooter because it is a terrible setup for an extraction shooter. However, it is a monumentally great setup for something like a DayZ alternative. That if you were just a single person dropped in as a PMC or whatever you want to call yourself, and you have to make it in this world by yourself, maybe you meet up organically with other players, maybe it's a 24 to 36 players scattered around the map, or maybe you could do even more. You could do 48 or 64 or whatever you want to do, just walking around the world, and then you can choose at that point to team up together or fight each other if you're on the PvP server. Then you can do so organically, just like in DayZ, like how you can choose to organically work together or organically do tasks together, or organically, explore the map together, whatever you want to do in that regard, and make it more like DayZ. Why it's fascinating that they are now calling themselves a PvE first open world tactical shooter and moving away from PvP is because that completely undermines their entire faction system. The entire faction system. Because on the PvE mode of Grayzone Warfare, factions are utterly useless. They are irrelevant because no one can actually shoot each other. The independent 3 faction system does nothing. You literally are the exact same as the guy on the other faction. If you're on Mithras, you're the same as the guy on whatever the Lamang side or whatever they're called. There's no difference. So the next question comes, if you're a PvE open world tactical shooter first, then you don't need the faction system anymore because you're not PvE or you're not PvP focused. Well, if you remove the faction system, what do you have? Well, you have DayZ. Well, holy shit, we actually are moving towards the right direction. It's taken them so long to admit defeat, but the reality is we're here. I was right all along. All the time that has been spent me making these videos saying that this game could be great if they went the DayZ route, we are going to end up there because the factions are completely useless now. They make no sense to continue to have if you're going to be a PvE focused game because the factions don't compete for anything. They don't go back and forth on anything. Even in the cops are completely irrelevant on the PvE side. So I win, I guess. This guy who doesn't make relevant Grayzone Warfare content to the Badfinger team, I win. You guys have lost. You are admitting defeat because your game was dead on arrival the way you had designed it. And yet you ignored feedback for years on this front, and now you are pivoting again. You pivoted to PvP to try to find players, to streamers, to find, marketing and content and people making, interesting gameplay montages or streams. And it failed miserably. Your awful, and I mean god awful community highlight thing that you did with the streamers that you flew in where you tried to show off Winds of War and you spent 2 hours LZ camping was terrible. And look where it's got you. You haven't seen more than 3,000 concurrent players in over a year. You literally have to pivot again to see if you can pull in PvE players, which is the live service death march. You are literally doing the live service death march where you're literally saying, we can't do this live service thing. We can't do this PvP thing. We surrender. Here's our game just as a PvE game. Because you refused to listen from the get-go. And now you're pivoting again. And you're probably going to pivot again in 0.5 when you realize what I'm saying right now is accurate, which is the faction system is now useless. The cop system is useless. You can remove those now. Just get rid of the cops, get rid of the factions, and just have people spawn in on the edge of the map and start them off and send them on their way. Start them with a pistol, and that's it. And maybe like a t-shirt or a light vest or, whatever you want to start them as PMC gear. I would say a pistol and a shirt and pants. And then make them have to work their way up through the map and complete quests and missions. And maybe cut the cops down to 3 cops. Or, given the map, maybe 5 cops. And you make 5 cops scattered around the map. And those cops are where you can kind of find your way to stash your gear, make upgrades, do changes, talk to the vendors, etc., but make them something you have to work to or work towards getting to. And then eventually, actually finish the game and get Ground Zero done so there's actually something relevant in this entire lore or plot that you're PvE first for without having any of that actually in the game. So it's hilarious to me that we've gotten to this point, but they're floundering. I don't honestly, if you asked me how this game was surviving in the world right now with how much everything costs and how these guys are getting along, I think they've got to be propped up on some military budget from their country that they're working out of, because I've seen them doing a lot of military outreach stuff for the country that they're developing in. because there's no way they have the money to continue to do this with only 3,000 concurrent players for a year and a half. Like, this is a tragedy, and they're pivoting again. And if this fails, if the PvP fails and the PvE fails to pull in players, like, what are they even doing? Like, who are they making this game for? Unless they're going to start listening to the truth. Now, if 0.5 gets here and they remove the cops down to 5 and they remove the factions and you actually play this like DayZ, holy shit. You will see me make a video unlike any video I've ever made. Ever. So, yeah. Now, I will say on the front of what is coming in the Spearhead, the community first thing is still hilarious to me. This guy is a piece of shit. What a loser. We find actual content here. No, he just talks the rest of the video, so we'll jump back. So there's some cool stuff here that is coming. So we get some new weapons, obviously is great. They're bringing in gun skins because they have to have some way to generate more income. I'm sure those are going to cost MTX or something. I highly doubt they're going to be free for a long period of time. But they are bringing in gun skins. Some new locations is whatever. They're not actually changing the map at all. Everything is still in the same spot. Door kicking actually becomes functional because it's been garbage since day one. New lore and storytelling is a joke. They're literally just post-it notes like this guy's looking at in journals. It's not actual lore. They are bringing in some new enemies, but if they're the same static enemies that just stand still on the map, like that guy was standing still in Midnight Sapphire, then, I mean, whoop-de-doo. They're just going to get one tapped in the face. This is cool. New bunkers has always been a big request, like actually making some underground content, because that is like good actual tight gameplay. And then they're changing Midnight Sapphire to be a full actual building. So it'll actually have floors to it. Supposedly we can also get all the way up to the roof, which I'm sure is where the boss is going to be. But it's more of a serious area now. So with that said, it's just hilarious. It's hilarious that everything I've called them out on, they seem to always pivot to, and then they don't fix any of the actual criticisms with the game. If the stupid red circles still exist on the PvE mode come this 0.4 update, you might as well just write this game in the dirt. Like, these guys just have no idea what they're doing. They're not listening to feedback. They're not actually taking it seriously. I do find it hilarious that they made the night vision goggles not suck ass. That came from their community thing they did with the streamers that was just awful. And no one could see anything because the night vision goggles were literally unseeable. So, yeah, hilarious update. Absolutely admitting defeat that they can't make a good PvP game. They can't make a good live service game. And you're going to see they're going to rush this out to compete with something like a Stalker. It'll probably be a PvE offline game. And it's probably going to get rushed out within the next year, if I had to guess. Probably even before the holidays, if they could rush it fast enough, because I don't know where they're getting money. Mind-blowing, because I know when they started this game that they had absolutely no money, and they were basically on the verge of being bankrupt. So I have no idea where they're getting the existing capital to continue development outside of maybe their government is funding them, which, okay. But I have a feeling that that money is going to run dry eventually. And they can't keep developing like this, like pivoting from PvP to PvE, changing the entire direction of their game, and then having nothing actually robust in content to do. Like, this is going to be the same quest, the same map, the same layout. Nothing is changing. The other reason they're going PvE focused first is because they can't deal with the cheaters. The cheaters literally run rampant. No one ever gets banned. No one ever gets taken care of. They don't know how to manage the game. They probably don't even have the staff to manage the game as a live service anymore. So again, expect it to be rushed out. Expect it to just compete with something like a Stalker. And I imagine they're going to go offline, because like every failed live service game like Towerborn or Wayfinder, that is the death march of a game. This game is always going to be dead on arrival because they refuse to listen to feedback. Have a good one.